Hello and welcome to the John Ark Show. This episode is called Shocking News. Country homes are now worth more than Manhattan real estate. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, follow, and comment on the show. I'd also like to tell you about a great service that allows you to purchase live phone calls from your favorite celebrities. It's a company called HollywoodIsCalling.com. They let you purchase calls for yourself or as a gift for someone you love. You can purchase a live 15-second call for $19.95 or a live 30-second call for $29.95. So give it a try. Buy a call for yourself or as a gift for someone you care about. HollywoodIsCalling.com. Now, let's get started. We're hearing about some shocking news coming out that will completely disrupt the real estate and the financial world. For decades now, high-end real estate in New York, Los Angeles, Miami, and other super high-end markets was long considered the investment gold standard. People you trusted would always say, invest in real estate because you can't go wrong. But suddenly, that has all changed. Why is that? Well, for decades and decades, investing in great real estate in high-end markets was always a way you could make serious money. You could buy a $3 million house or a condo and put $2 million in renovations into it, and then a year later, sell it for $12 million and start building your empire. A lot of people who weren't brain surgeons, not geniuses, those people went on to make vast fortunes over the years with that very business model. Some of them started their careers flipping $20,000 homes in the ghetto and then built their way up to $1 million renovations and house flips. In fact, the one industry that's created more millionaires than any other industry is the real estate industry. There were so many people doing this for so long that Hollywood even started cranking out countless home flipping reality TV shows just to teach everybody else in the country how to do it. But this year, dramatic events changed everything. They created a seismic shift in the culture and the business world. Explosive crime, civil unrest, and the willingness of companies to embrace remote learning has changed everything. Before, everyone wanted to live in the most prestigious zip codes because they possessed the highest concentration of wealth. They had neighborhoods that had the greatest bars and restaurants and museums, and perhaps most importantly, the greatest financial opportunities for advancement and profit. That's where everybody wanted to be. But then everything changed and crime exploded in the biggest and the best cities in the country. Companies everywhere closed down during the chaos, and many of them never reopened. Suddenly, people could care less about bars and restaurants because they were now obsessed with their family's personal safety. So they started moving out of high crime areas and high tax cities, and they began a mass migration out to the countryside. The one thing they wanted most was personal safety, so they started driving anywhere from 50 to 1,500 miles away so they could find a nice, sleepy, small town that had low crime, nice people, and lots of home and property for sale at affordable prices. So what did all these elitists who used to pride themselves on only living in the finest parts of the country like Manhattan and Beverly Hills end up doing? Well, they started moving out of their enormous mansions and they began moving to the country. Just like the Beverly Hillbillies, only sort of in reverse. Turns out that the one thing that the super wealthy have in common with the everyday middle class homeowner is that they want safety and they want to put distance between themselves and all the insanity that they see on TV. What's the best way to achieve that? Well, they've decided to achieve it by purchasing farmland out in the country. So what is this new increased demand for property out in the country doing? Well, it's beginning to increase those values. It's also doing something else. The nice, normal people who live on all those farms and have done so all their lives, these people who've lived sane lives and gone out of their way to help their neighbors in need, these people have suddenly become very paranoid and very concerned. The last thing they want is a bunch of rich, self-absorbed, big city, drugged out elitists, lunatics pouring into their area and trying to turn it into New York or Los Angeles or San Francisco. These country people despise the values of the people who live in those big cities. They hate their superficiality. They hate their greed, their criminal behavior. They don't like the way they mock and view ordinary Americans. And most of all, they hate the way they treat ordinary people. They don't like their inflated self-importance, and they despise how untrustworthy they are. You know, a favorite joke in most small towns now is, how can you tell when a rich person is lying or trying to rip you off? Answer, their lips are moving. Now, here's the shocking news. A lot of you are saying, how can these small town country homes and farms be worth more than these super expensive mansions in Manhattan and LA? Well, the problem is those mansions in super prestigious zip codes aren't selling. And when you can't sell something, most people will tell you it's probably worthless. You can very easily sell a home or a farm in the country now, and you'll probably get a price that's higher than you're asking for as a bidding war for it begins. But the prices of these super expensive homes and mansions are now dropping so fast that the market for them is freezing up. It's literally locking up. Last year, an apartment that could have sold in Manhattan for $10 million is now sitting on the market for $6 million, and no one is coming by to check it out. A couple of years ago, you could have gotten a foreign buyer to purchase it as an investment. They would have paid full price for it over the phone, and then they would have rented it out immediately and probably never even stepped foot in it because they knew its price would continue to climb year after year. Now, even the foreign buyers have dried up and disappeared. In the real estate business, they call this phenomena not wanting to catch a falling knife. That means that no one wants to make an offer today on a house that's going to be worth less tomorrow and even less a week later. Now, here's the really interesting part. You know, this has always happened repeatedly throughout history. Markets have cycled up and markets have cycled down. And what would happen is that buyers would just sit around on the sidelines and wait for the market to hit bottom so they could swoop in and buy property for a fraction of what it was once worth. But now, everybody is doing the same calculation about major cities. They're thinking the crime is insane. Thousands of stores and restaurants and bars and businesses have filed for bankruptcy and permanently disappeared along with the jobs that came with them. So what's the point of living with all that traffic and crime and high taxation in the big cities anymore? So now that everyone is moving out, this is causing an acceleration in the pricing collapse of property in the big cities. So you're wondering, how is a farmhouse in Tennessee worth more than a mansion in Manhattan? Well, the answer to that is you can sell a farmhouse for a substantial profit. But when it comes to selling a mansion or even a normal condo apartment in New York or LA, there is a real absence of buyers and there is no demand. And you know what? You have to ask yourself, when there's no demand, what is that thing worth? Remember the age-old expression, something is only worth what someone else is willing to pay for it. And if no one wants to pay for it, then that tells you something. So with that, I want to thank you for watching, and we will talk to you soon.